Okay, we are live
Right on
and people,
time, 7 o'clock.
7 p.m. Okay, we are live, and people are starting to come in. This is perfect. Awesome. Welcome. Okay, so we're going to get rolling right away. For those of you who are here on time and ready to go, welcome. If you are watching the replay, welcome as well. You can drop in the comments from where you're finding this replay that you're watching. We have the chat open for those of you who are on live. So feel free to drop a hello, a message, let us know where you're watching from. And tonight I'm here with Dr. Eli Camp. Before I introduce her, in case you don't already know her, because she's incredible and has so much knowledge that she's been sharing for so long, you may already know her. I'd like to introduce the organization that's hosting this event tonight. This is a nonprofit I started in 2010, Oklahoma Center for Wellness. So my name's Andrea Reed. I'm the founder and president of this nonprofit, and we host the annual event, the Holistic Wellness Event, each year. This year will be our 6th year. If you're watching this live, or in 2025, it's our 6th year. And we basically bring together holistic health and wellness practitioners all under one roof so that it can shorten the length of time for people to find answers to their health questions. I'm just going to check over here and make sure that drop a little comment if you can hear us okay. Perfect. So tonight we're talking with Dr. Eli Camp because we love our in-person events, but in this digital age, we want to meet up at least once a month online with a different speaker each month. And Northeastern Oklahoma has so many incredible practitioners, just so many, that we're creating this database of people that have a wealth of knowledge to share. So Dr. Eli Camp is on with us tonight. A little bit about her. She trained in naturopathic medicine at Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Arizona and is a licensed primary care physician in New Hampshire. In 2021, she and her family completely changed their lives and left city life to start a homestead in northeastern Oklahoma. Her goal is to dive deep into her Cherokee heritage, grow her own food, raise animals, her kids, and create sustainable lifestyle and community. Dr. Camp runs a small homeopathic practitioner training program once every 2 years, in which she takes 10 students, runs homestead farm classes for children, teens, and families. We've been out there for a couple of years for that too. It's incredible. And for families interested in living this type of life, she also writes books. In 2018, she published the book, The Unvaccinated Child, a treatment guide for parents and caregivers. Smoke Rings, a health guide for smokers, and in 2023, and Homeopathy, a foundational approach in 2024. And we're going to have a link to all of Dr. Camp's books here as well. So don't panic if you're trying to write notes. We're going to get you all covered with all the notes here. She also maintains a small private medical practice and resides on her small homestead teaching farm with her 2 grandchildren, husband, and a growing family of farm animals. That is basically living the dream and ticking all the boxes that I have on my to-do list. So, Dr. Camp, if you could start by telling us tonight, what first drew you to homeopathy?
So my grandmother was the Cherokee person in our family. And she had a garden, and I don't know if any of you remember the company Shackley, but it was a vitamin and supplement company, and they had a really clean, environmentally friendly cleaner. And my grandmother was all about gardening, eating the food that she grew, taking supplements, trying to use things that were very low toxicity. And I that affected me, right? That imprinted on me at a young age. And my grandfather, my great grandfather, her father, they were Cherokee. They lived in Grove. They, just they lived a farmer's life. They grew all their own food. They had cows. They had horses. They had chickens. And I got an experience many summers growing up of what it meant to provide for myself. And I lived many, many years out in the world buying things at the store and watching people get sicker and sicker and sicker. And I went to get my undergraduate degree, and I was going to work in a lab and study some animal. And the calling to be a physician was very strong. And I didn't know a lot about homeopathy until I went to medical school. And the first lecture and the first patient I saw respond to a homeopathic remedy was transformational for me. And that's when I decided that I was going to, yes, be a doctor, yes, use all the tools of healing, but I decided to specialize in homeopathy. So I can't wait to tell everyone all about it tonight.
That's awesome. Okay, so you have a presentation that you're going to share with us, and I've just dropped a copy of tonight's notes for you all that are watching to download. So you can click on that link and download. But if you miss the notes, please don't worry, because it's going to be emailed out with the replay as well as added into our Facebook and school communities. So you are welcome to take notes as you go, but you can also know you can sit back and enjoy taking in all this knowledge that Dr. Camp is going to dive in deep. So take it away.
All right, thanks. And I'm so glad to be here really to talk to you all about an incredible form of medicine that we can all be using at home, and that we don't really need for many things anything more than knowledge of what to use and how to use it. And it is this practice we call homeopathy. Just to let you know, anything I say tonight should never replace the advice of your doctor. You shouldn't not go see a doctor because of it. And really, there's a quote, and this is from the father of homeopathy, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him tonight in a few minutes. But there's a quote in one of the books that he wrote: "The physician's high and only mission is to restore the sick to health, to cure as it is termed." And I have to tell you that that is such a profound and important concept to me and to other holistic healers and practitioners and doctors who believe that the body can heal itself, because it absolutely can heal itself. It doesn't just heal that scratch all on its own. It can heal really, really serious things, because that's how we're built. We're put together so that our body will heal itself. It's miraculous. And what about who am I talking to? So I'm of Cherokee descent. My family walked the Trail of Tears from Georgia. They landed in Grove, Oklahoma. I went to medical school, graduated in 2005. I specialized in homeopathy. By 2015, I had a special certification, and then Nature Cure, which is its own way of practicing holistic medicine, in 2018. I do see people all over the world. I teach business because that was my background before medical school. So I teach at different medical schools so that the doctors can open practice and stay in practice. I'll teach homeopathy to anyone who wants to learn it. I teach it all the time, constantly, every day. I own a few companies. Yes, I write books and I produce some educational material. I'm raising up 2 kids that I just love more than life itself. Long Shadows Ranch is my homestead, and I do lots of nature cure classes here on the homestead. And I love what I do. I'm so fortunate and so blessed. Here's a picture of me with my 2 Amazonian children. Beautiful rainbow. That's our barn and our chicken coop. And for those of you who are trying to sort of understand more about homeopathy or about natural medicine, there's some books, and they're in the chat, that I highly recommend. The first one, Homeopathy Beyond Flat Earth Medicine, is free. You can find the first edition as a free download online. Nature Cure by Dr. Henry Lindlar, and also by Dr. Lindlar, Philosophy of Natural Therapeutics. These 3 books right here are foundational to understanding a natural approach to health and well-being. If you're really into homeopathy, whether now or after you hear me tell you more about it tonight, I have a course. It's called 1, 2, 3 Homeopathy. and I'm super happy to give you a discount on that. It's enough that you can be doing first aid and acute homeopathy at home right away. The last thing I want to tell you about before we jump into more about homeopathy is this movie, also free. It's a documentary done by Dr. Rick Kirschner, How Healthcare Became Sick Care. And it's the true history of medicine. It is a sad story in some ways, but so very important to understand. What I'd really love by the end of tonight is to understand the short story of homeopathy. And this is, we believe, we homeopaths believe that when the vital force of the body becomes imbalanced, so that force of the body that makes you living and keeps you alive and keeps you thriving and breathing and aspiring to reach your highest potential, when it becomes imbalanced, there are symptoms of illness. And our goal as a practitioner of homeopathy is to rebalance the vital force, because when the vital force is balanced, there's no symptoms of illness. And we use very dilute substances. We do something called potentize them in a specific way, and I'm going to tell you all about that. And the interesting thing is that this medicine, when given to a healthy person, can cause the symptoms that when a person who's ill with those symptoms takes the medicine, it clears them up. It stimulates their body to heal. It's a really incredible concept, and it was developed by this guy named Samuel Hahnemann. He lived from 1755 to 1843. He was brilliant. It's well documented. By the age of 12, and if any of you have kids, think about your 12-year-olds, he was tutoring people twice and 3 times his age in Latin and Greek by the age of 12. He was truly a genius. He was a master pharmacist. He was a leading chemist. He was a linguist and translator. He spoke 7 languages fluently. He was a pioneer of public health and sanitation at a time when that was absolutely ridiculed. Because of this, he understood the principles of contagious disease. He knew that nutrition was very important to health. And because he understood that, he promoted a very healthy diet. Above all, he believed in the body's ability to heal itself. If the body has what it needs and it's not being poisoned, the body can heal itself. And homeopathy is something that's used to assist the body in doing what it's already designed to do. And just a little bit of trivia, he's the only physician with a statue in Washington, D.C. He was very influential during his time. Hahnemann became very disillusioned with the medical practices of his time. And he moved frequently. He turned his hand to a number of endeavors, as you can tell from the list of things that I just said that he was very good at. One of the things he did was translate medical texts and papers that were written in Greek and other languages. He translated them. And there's this remedy. This is the very first homeopathic remedy, cinchona. And what was happening is he was translating a book about herbal medicine. And it was called Cullen's Materia Medica, for those of you who might be interested. And he read that the reason why cinchona bark, think quinine, was successful for treating malaria was that it had bitter properties. Well, this didn't make a lot of sense to him because other plants with bitter properties did not treat malaria. And so he was this kind of thinker where he said, no, that doesn't make sense. So he decided to experiment. He took some cinchona bark himself and he developed the symptoms of malaria. Now, I am giving you such a shortened Reader's Digest version of how this happened, but this led him to put 2 and 2 together, and he discovered that if you gave cinchona bark in a potentized or a dilute form to people who had the symptoms of malaria, it could help them clear the symptoms of malaria. This was the beginning of an entire life that he dedicated to homeopathy and the principles of homeopathy and how you use it. And he developed this idea of like cures like, or we call it the law of similars. And in 200 years, this concept has been proven true by millions of people and practitioners around the world. And it is that very simple concept. If you give a healthy person a particular substance that's been diluted, and it will cause a certain set of symptoms. If you then give that remedy to someone who's actually sick with those symptoms, it somehow, and nobody can tell us how this works, we just know how to use it. It stimulates the body to sort of recognize something's out of balance, and it gets rid of the symptoms. And I've seen it over and over and over and over again myself. And like I say, thousands upon thousands of practitioners around the world use homeopathy. And he spent his life, and within a few years, there was a working model that he then started to teach to other doctors.
That sounds like almost like a jump start, like you would have in a car.
Exactly. In a car, or you have someone just kind of sitting around and thinking about stuff, and they just get this idea because they observe something or someone says something, and boom, it becomes the beginning of this really incredible development, right? Like the internet or computers or certain business models like Ford did with the cars and the assembly line. It all starts with this observation in the world uh, of something very elegant and beautiful, and then you think about it and you figure it out, right? I mean, yeah, absolutely. So in homeopathy, if you once I'm going to show you some pictures here of different things that we know of as homeopathy, some different remedies, but we have different dilutions. So remember I said they're dilute substances, and we have things that are diluted with 1 drop of a natural substance. Like you can look at that picture of the mother tincture there and think of that as like a really, really, really strong herbal tincture. It's so strong, it's been saturated, meaning we couldn't dissolve anything else in that bottle, any other molecules of plants. So it's completely saturated. And we take 1 drop of that. And in this particular dilution strength, we call it a C, centesimal potency, we add 1 drop of that to 99 drops of pure alcohol or wine or brandy or something like that. And when we do that, we shake it, we strike it against the palm of our hand or some other firm surface. That's called succussing. And once you've done that, you now have something that's called a 1C. So it's been diluted to a 1 centesimal. It's a 1 in 100 dilution ratio. Now, if you go to the store, you'll see X potency. So you'll see a 1X or a 3X or a 6X. And those are a little bit different because they've taken 1 drop of this mother tincture and they've only added 10 drops of alcohol or brandy or wine. That is something that is sold very frequently in many health food stores, that X strength, and that's a decimal strength, and it's a 1 in 10 dilution. This C potencies or centesimal, 1 in 100, this is what's used by practitioners much more frequently than the X potencies. And when we do this, we succuss it, we have a 1C, we continue to do that, we continue to dilute it. And here is the frequently used scale. I have that in your notes: 3C, 6C, 12C, 30, 200. This M is still considered a C, but instead of having to write out a bunch of zeros, we use Roman numerals. And we shorten all those zeros to an M. So now we have a 1M. And they always succuss in between diluting. Now, here's the crazy thing is that the more dilute a homeopathic remedy is, so the more it's potentized, the stronger it is. And there's so many people out there who say homeopathy is completely unbelievable because there's no drops. You can't find the substance in the homeopathic remedy that you've made. But here's what I say. So if any of you who are watching this or watch the replay of this, remember music CDs, right? This was holographic technology. And if you were to take a music CD and you were to chop it up and look at it under a microscope, what sorts of things might you see in there? Paper, metal, shiny bits of something.
Plastic,
But
maybe.
plastic, exactly. And because of the way CD technology is, because it's holographic, on any small little bitty piece, all the information exists. And I often would say to people when I was explaining this, well, where's the music? Where's the music in that microscope? It's still there. The information is there. You just can't see it. And I sort of think of homeopathy a little bit in that way. Just because we have diluted it doesn't mean the information isn't there. And, you know, folks who are holistic health practitioners, they've seen some really crazy things and usually don't have a problem embracing the idea that what we're doing is we are passing information from one strength to the next strength and then on to the human body. So Hahnemann discovered this because he was working with very toxic substances. And he experimented with this dilution. And it was after a number of years and many patients and many patient cases that they realized what was happening. And it was that as they diluted it more, or in homeopathy, we say as it was potentized further, the action became stronger and stronger and stronger. So he also developed this idea called a characteristic symptom. And this is where individualization of any type of holistic medicine is important, and especially in homeopathy. So he developed guidelines that help us pick the best remedy. So right now there's well over 3,000 different remedies that have been made since his time. So in over more than the last 200 years. And as you might imagine, that's a lot of data to try and remember what remedy, you know, causes what symptoms in a healthy person. And so it's all been very nicely categorized and put together in software, and you can look up symptoms and they can suggest remedies that have those symptoms. But the most important thing about homeopathy when you're selecting a remedy is that you choose symptoms that are unique to an individual and not common to a group. Now, what do I mean by that? So let's look at person one. So person one is hot to the touch, right? They're sick, acutely ill. They're hot to the touch. They feel hot. So if you say to them, do you feel hot or cold? They say, I feel hot. The condition that they've developed has come on really quickly. Like in the morning, they were fine. And by the afternoon, they were not feeling well at all. There's a redness and a heat in their face. Interestingly, their hands and feet are very cold when you touch them. They're very restless. They're very thirsty for cold drinks. If you look at their eyes, their pupils are dilated and they want to be left alone. So this is the description of one person. Person number two, and let's say that they're diagnosed with the flu, both of them. But person number two is hot to the touch, but they feel cold. And their hands and feet are hot to the touch. They feel like they're hot, but the person would tell you that their hands feel cold. But when you touch them, they're hot. They're very pale. instead of red and flushed. They're very listless with no energy. So they're not moving around like person one. They're not thirsty at all, whereas person number one was very thirsty. And instead of their pupils being dilated, their pupils are constricted. So in homeopathy, person number one would need one remedy, and person number two would need a different remedy, and they both would recover. And this is what we mean by like cures like. So this person number one likely needs a remedy. It's called belladonna, atropine, right? But belladonna that has been potentized or diluted so much that it's no longer toxic because there's no molecules, but the information still exists. Person number two likely needs a remedy called aconite. And it is all based on how these were individualized to each person to know that they needed two different remedies, yet they both were diagnosed with the flu. Because in mainstream or conventional medicine, they don't have a way to fine tune it the way we can do that in homeopathy. In general, homeopathic remedies are very safe. And you have probably seen lots of different kinds of homeopathic remedies in the store. They come in these tubes. This is from a company called Boron. They're in many different shapes and sizes. They're so safe that a newborn can use it. Someone who's very elderly can use it. There may be things that you could give a homeopathic remedy for that it might not cure, but it certainly could help. There's been many times I've sent people to the emergency room and had them take a homeopathic remedy on the way. You can use it for any condition. And the only sort of rule here is that the condition has to be something that the body could heal naturally on its own. For instance, if an arm got cut off, the body can't regrow a new arm. See, we couldn't expect homeopathy to cause a new arm to grow, but homeopathy could totally help with the pain and the phantom pains that come when you lose a limb, things like that, or the mental trauma that comes from losing a limb. It can be used for mild or serious issues. When you're using homeopathy at home, we want to use it for things that we call acute or first aid, like a sort of a level one is first aid. Acute conditions are ones that the body can heal on its own, even if you didn't do anything. Like you have a cut or a scratch. As long as you keep it clean, you don't have to put any medicine on it. You don't have to do anything. The body can heal that up. We call that self-limiting, right? Or self-healing, right? It's something the body can heal on its own. This is a first aid type of situation. And we think of things like sprains and bruises and cuts and poison ivy, diaper rash, teething. I mean, there's so many things that we consider first aid. It can also be used acutely. Again, an acute thing is something the body can heal on its own. And we're using homeopathy not because it can't heal, but because with homeopathic treatment, we can clear it up so much faster. Like I've seen kids with ear infections heal within an hour or two. I've seen people with pneumonia go to bed and wake up with clear lungs. It's not that the body cannot clear it up, it's that we can assist the body to do it much more quickly. I sort of think of it like if you give vitamin C and herbs or you do some hydrotherapy, we're assisting the body to heal itself. Level 3 is chronic homeopathy, and that's something you really should think about using someone who has proper training in homeopathic care, because chronic condition progresses over time. It cannot be cured without intervention. And it involves a very in-depth case to be taken, someone with medical knowledge, and it can elicit profound healing. I've treated people with MS who were wheelchair bound, but with chronic homeopathic treatment, today they're up and walking around and their condition is miraculously in remission, or so their doctors say. Homeopathic remedies can be made out of anything, plants, animals, minerals, mold, any substance can be turned into a homeopathic remedy. Because remember, we're potentizing it, we're diluting it. And so we don't have to worry about toxicity. When it's properly prepared, it poses no risk. And really, it just brings the chance of profound healing. In the beginning, they used very toxic plants and substances, things that you wouldn't think about putting into your body. And when you apply this system of getting the very specific details that are very unique to that individual, and then finding the remedy that covers those symptoms, we can do some really, really amazing things. The other term that you might see as you're reading and learning about homeopathy or working with a homeopath is that a substance has been dynamized, and that is the same as potentized, which is diluted and then succussed. Okay, before I go into the different forms, do we have any questions or anything that I should pause for, Andrea?
I don't have questions in the chat at this point. If you have a question for Dr. Camp, feel free to just drop it in the chat. And then I've got a few questions for later in the session.
Okay. So there's a number of different ways that we can dose homeopathy. The medicine that has been potentized or diluted can be put on pellets and tablets. This is one of the most common ways that we see homeopathic remedy prepared. They're called pellets, they're called pilules, tablets, and they're made from sucrose or lactose. If people have a milk or dairy allergy, you want to make sure that the little pills that you're getting are a sucrose base and not a lactose base. You can also see it in liquid form, and that can be done by crushing the pellets and adding them to water, or by buying homeopathic preparations that were prepared as liquids. It's such a powerful medicine that there are many practitioners around the world who simply have their patients smell the remedy. And there are some folks who are very, very, very sensitive to the homeopathic medicines, and this is more than enough. And some people who aren't as sensitive and they need the liquids or the pellets. You've probably seen things like this in the store. These are creams, these are topicals, they have ointments, sprays, gels, all sorts of different things. So they also have injectables, but that can only be done by a physician. So in homeopathy, we start, so let's say, someone has smashed their finger into car door. Well, we want to quickly take their case. And the only difference between this acute and first aid and the chronic treatment is how long that takes and how much information we have to get. So when you gather symptoms from someone, we call that taking a case, and we need to know the complete symptom in order to find the remedy. I like to think of it, and I was taught this way by Dr. Stephen Messer, who was my first homeopathy teacher, that it's like a stool. You have to have 3 of these 4 pieces of information so that the stool doesn't fall over. 4 is even better. But you can't just have 2 pieces of information and find the right remedy. You have to know what it feels like. Things like, does it throb? Is it a burning pain? Is it a shooting pain? Does it feel cold and numb? Like, what exactly does the pain of the finger being smashed in the car door feel like? Where exactly is the pain? Is it in the tip of the finger? Does the pain start here and radiate up the arm? Does maybe it radiate out? Does it feel like it's like throbbing and radiating out? So we have to understand exactly where. There's this thing in homeopathy called a modality, which is something that makes a symptom worse or better. And that's not like aspirin. That's like running it under hot water or cold water, keeping it very still, or moving it around, right? And then a concomitant symptom is something else that happens at the same time. So they smash their finger in the door. We'll say it's throbbing, it's a burning pain. The pains are shooting up their arm. It's much better if they just hold it still. And then Ever since they've done that, their left eye is twitching. That concomitant symptom of the left eye twitching, ever since they smashed their finger in the door, that would be a symptom that goes along, and it very well could help us choose what remedy we would give to them. There's a few rules in case taking in homeopathy. You cannot get too many details from someone. Now, in my experience, someone who's just smashed their finger in the door doesn't feel much like talking. But if you can get them to tell you what it feels like and what makes it better and what makes it worse, any other details you can gather, the better chance you have of finding the right remedy for them. And they take that remedy and the pain almost immediately goes away. And I have seen that hundreds of times. Well, once you have the case, you choose the remedy. I've given you a guide in your notes. It's my first aid guide that can sort of help you pick a remedy. It doesn't have all 3,000 remedies of the materia medica in there, but it has the most common ones in there. And we're going to talk about those tonight too. You give them the remedy. You give them usually 3 pellets of a 30C. A 30C is a great strength to have on hand of a number of different remedies for first aid and acute stuff. You dose it as frequently as needed when you're talking about acute or first aid stuff. For infants, you would dissolve it in water and give them a little dropper of water. And then you give them the remedy until the pain's gone, or the cut has, the cut's not bleeding, or whatever it is that you're treating is obviously and significantly better. You don't need to keep dosing. Sometimes people will need that first strength of 30C, which is a common strength that's used, and it'll work for a while. And then take this idea that someone smashed their finger in the door, and we choose a remedy and we give it to them for a couple of days, and they really don't have any pain. It's doing really well. And then they wake up one morning and the pain is back, and it doesn't matter how many times we give them the 30C, it doesn't help the pain like it did. Sometimes you have to go to the next higher strength, right? The next dilution. And in this case, it would be a 200C. And a dose or two of that, boom, everything's great. When all the symptoms are gone, the case is over. I always tell my patients and anybody that I've taught homeopathy to build a kit. There's some notes. I gave you notes about what to have, what to put in that kit. There's a lot of reasons to build a kit, to have them on hand when you have these first aid or acute things happen. Lots of different types of things to have in there: arnica gel and cream, calendula ointment, all of these in the homeopathic preparation. And I gave you pictures in your notes of what these look like. Colloidal silver spray, but not the alcohol-based one, and Traumeel, which is used by professional athletes. The remedies to get, 30C is usually enough to have for home use. Most of the local health food shops have them. Here's the list in your notes of what to get. And you can get 30C of all of those, and you will be pretty well prepared. You can buy kits online. There's a few places that sell kits, and so you certainly could get a kit with an assortment of different remedies in it. And again, just remember, if you are thinking about chronic issues, you absolutely want to work with someone who has a deeper training. There's some stuff in your notes about establishing and maintaining good health, because remember I said that Dr. Hahnemann understood that nutrition and cleanliness was very important, and I'm not going to go through those with you, but you certainly can read them. It has to do with food and drink and exercise and sleep, paying attention to your state of your mind, body, the environment you live in. And those things are very important. And Dr. Hahnemann taught that if you have symptoms because of lifestyle choices that you've made, that's not considered disease. And it's not well treated. They won't respond well. So if you are eating something that's bad for you, or you have a reaction to it, and you take a remedy, it might help temporarily, but if you keep eating that substance or doing that thing that's causing the symptom for you, you're not gonna ever reach cure. You won't ever be cured of it. Okay. Now I'd like to go through remedies. I don't know if there's any, I don't see anything in the chat. So I'm just going to run through some of these really quick.
I wanted to mention something real quick that you just
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
If you have symptoms based on the lifestyle that you're living, and if you're, that's something that as practitioners, I think we see a lot where there can be skepticism in the treatment or the products that they're using. And I've heard a lot of practitioners have to really explain and coach people like what we're doing in this session or in this treatment is one thing, but what you do out in the world is really going to determine how well these modalities or these, homeopathy or naturopathy or different supplements, how they work for you.
It's so true. I
It's
agree with
huge.
you. It is huge. And it's there's been a disconnect in the last several generations, I think, of people who make certain kinds of lifestyle choices because that's what's normal and that's what other people do and it's what we see on TV and what we read about. But it doesn't mean it's good for us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are normal that I don't want in my life.
Oh,
So
me too. Me too. So this little remedy, it's called urtica urines. We have this remedy everywhere because this in our house, in our car, out in the shop, because this particular remedy is very good for burns. Now, I have a picture here of someone with a sunburn. So if you're going to the ocean, absolutely have this little beauty with you because after you dose this within minutes, the stinging and burning is gone. And not only of a sunburn, but also of burns that you might get in the kitchen or if you're in the shop working. And you were thinking mild cooking burns, right? I wouldn't have you take this for something like a second or third degree burn. It's also very good for seasonal allergy symptoms. And it's what you might have is uh, the skin might be involved, blisters, itching, burning type of stuff. It's a very, very good, it's just a wonderful little homeopathic remedy. Arnica, I'm usually when I do a talk on homeopathy, the one remedy most people know is arnica. But if you don't, that's okay. It's really good for strains and sprains and just all kinds of trauma, blunt force trauma. This is the one that is very highly utilized by professional athletes. Bumps, bruises, other injuries. It helps prevent bruising. So if we give this to someone who's like gotten hit in the eye with a ball or got punched or you hit something really hard, like bump your leg against a piece of wood or the table, it will help prevent bruising and it speeds the body through the inflammatory state. If you've already got a bruise, it reduces the pain. And interestingly, we use arnica in an injury, even if there aren't bruises, but it feels like an area is bruised. It's a powerful remedy for that. My daughter sprained her ankle today, jumping off the porch into a little hole one of the cats had dug. Her ankle swelled up like that, and I put her on arnica, also a little bit of ice, and you can't even tell that she did it now several hours later. Arnica is often part of pre and post-op protocols because it helps with the bruising and the pain. Hypericum is a remedy that's really good when you've damaged nerve endings. So remember I was talking about someone smashing their finger in the car door? I would have immediately given them a dose of hypericum. Hypericum is really a remedy that's a go-to for any nerve damage. Smashing a finger or toe, closing the finger in a drawer, any kind of cut in a nerve-rich area. It's also really great as a pre and post-op protocol remedy for falls on the tailbone. This remedy and another little remedy called Ruta are the top two choices for injuries to a tailbone, even if it happened months or years ago and the tailbone is still sore. These remedies can help resolve that. Often for hypericum, but it doesn't have to be this way, the pains are electric-like and they shoot from the location of the injury toward the body. Arsenicum is a remedy that you should take to any barbecue that you go to. It is the number one, along with Nux vomica. It's the number one remedy for food poisoning. And people who get food poisoning, who feel weak, they vomit and they diarrhea at the same time. They're thirsty, they're sipping cold water. This is when you would think about arsenicum. It's also a really good remedy when people have anxiety, especially about their health. This really weird thing here, burning pains better with heat. If you have a pain that feels like it's burning, most people don't want to put something hot on it. But with arsenicum, if it's better with heat, it's almost for sure going to be arsenicum. There's the nausea and vomiting. They're thirsty. Lots of things we use arsenicum for: food poisoning, fevers, nervous system, respiratory, and there's the food poisoning. An interesting symptom is for folks who cough after they exercise in the cold air. Turns out arsenicum's really good for that too. The pains of arsenicum are usually hot and burning. Apis, and I show you the difference between a normal hand and an apis hand. This is really good for a bee sting, and it gets very big, very swollen, very hot. There's another remedy called ledum, and you can see this is the same bee that bit two different people. This person needs apis because it's hot and swollen and big and puffy and red. And this person, it's got this white area with that little red dot where they got stung. This person needs ledum. So it's pain and swelling after a sting, bee stings, other allergic reactions. Red, swollen, usually better from cold water or ice. They're usually thirsty. And this is a really good picture to keep in your mind. So this one needs ledum, this one needs apis, and they'll both work. There's a blow up there of what the ledum looks like. This is a remedy that we give anybody who gets a tick bite. Whether it had a target lesion, it doesn't matter. Anytime something punctures the skin, a nail, a bite, especially a tick bite, they're going to, around here, they're going to get ledum. It's a wound that's pale in the center, better cold. We have this remedy in our tackle box, camping gear, road trips, first aid kit. It sits in my daughter's sewing kit because she's always poking herself with the needle. The other thing to tell you about this remedy is for a very, very, very long time in history, this is what practitioners used. Well, they used this before there was a tetanus vaccine, and they often use it now for people who are choosing to not get a vaccine. They give tetanus prophylactically or ledum prophylactically. We're almost done. Staph sagria is for cuts. Keep it clean, keep it covered, give Staph sagria. It's paper cuts, knives, any of that. Again, it's a pre and post-op remedy because of the cutting. Often people who need Staph sagria, and this can be acutely as well, is they're very strongly affected by disappointment, but they hold it in so they don't disrupt the boat. They don't want to make waves. They're really good with stomach and GI stuff. And they're gonna, the person's gonna suffer in silence. They're very sensitive. They can become really indignant with injustice, but you don't know it. And it's a remedy that's very commonly used in dental work. Bryonia is something we use a lot with flu or any condition where the person wants to lie absolutely still. They don't want to be disturbed or talked to. Everything is worse when they move. Everything is dry. Mouth, eyes, they're very irritable. Leave them alone, right? They don't want to be disturbed. They don't want a hot and stuffy room. And it's one of the most important remedies to have on hand during flu season. And the last one is calcarea. So this is a very common remedy, especially right now in the world when people are very disturbed with the things that are happening in the world. And it's one of the most common childhood remedies. Colic, teething, skin issues, delayed dentition. Usually folks that need calcarea are very sweaty. They have constipation or very large bowel movements. They really like breads and pasta, sweets, and sometimes eggs. And they're very sensitive to bad news or to how other people feel. It really, really, really can bother them and disrupt them. And what you'll find in my notes is a much more in-depth. I was trying to leave time for questions, but a much more in-depth first aid guide. The best way to use that is to, like, for instance, in the notes on page 13, there's for bruising. I talked to you about arnica, but there's a lot of other remedies that you might think of when someone's going to be bruised. And there's a little description in there of what the pains feel like and what makes them better and what makes them worse. And that's what helps you choose which remedy to use in those particular situations. Now, before we do any questions, I just want to say you can absolutely be your own best doctor, number one. Number two, homeopathy is safe and gentle, and it's for first aid and acute. It's very easy to get started on this. Get a bump or a bruise tomorrow, give arnica. Cut your finger, give staphysagria, right? Don't be afraid to use it. It's not going to hurt you. Worst thing that can happen is it's not the right remedy and you don't see any improvement from it. So you just try a different remedy. I talked a lot faster than I usually do so that I could go through all of that.
Wow, and I'm literally going through all my questions. I'm like, nope, she covered that. Nope, she covered that. So this has been incredible. I did want to ask one thing, and then I'll check the chat and see if we have any additional questions from our live viewers. And then, of course, as we go forward, if you're watching on the replay, you can post questions in the comments and we can get those answered too. I noticed that when you're talking about a remedy helping with a specific issue, that there's a physical component to it, but also an emotional component to it, like with the person not wanting to be disturbed or the one that suffers in silence kind of thing. Can you
Yeah.
speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. So I think that really just plays into the fact that we are whole organisms with many different states of being, right? We're mind, we're body, we're spirit, we're energy, we're light. And when, and the vital force permeates all of that. And so when we have a disruption in the vital force or, you know, that which makes us living, thinking, breathing, feeling creatures, it can be the thing or the layer that needs to be treated. Sometimes when people come in to see me or I'm working with folks, there's nothing physical. There's no pain. There's no ache. There's nothing physical at all. It's all in the way that they're perceiving the life and the world around them and their response to it. And that's what we have to sort of rebalance. And homeopathy is really great at that too.
So one of the other questions is Helios a good basic remedies kit?
It is. In fact, 95% of my remedies, because I make kits and wallets and I sell them as well, they're all from Helios. I love Helios. So great. They're based in the UK. They've been around a long time and they're just an amazing company.
Okay, so we have another couple questions. Let's see here, Erica, or I always say that because I read the end of her name. I'm sorry. Erin said, thank you so much for informative for me. Love that we have guides and book recommendations. Yes, and in the email that's going to go out with the replay, we are going to have Dr. Camp's website and all her books are going to be listed there. She's also been generous to offer us a discount code to purchase her books and also on her lectures and courses. So all of that's going to go out tomorrow with the replay of this. So you'll have all her links to her lectures, courses, books with a 10% discount, which is so awesome. And a link to your podcast as well as your mailing list is all going to be included in that. So if you have friends or family members and you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I know 5 people that need to hear this, you can share that with them and then they'll have, if that's okay, right, to do, can share it far and
Absolutely.
wide.
That's fine. Yep.
Yeah, and we'll have that in the post as well. A couple more questions here. Um,
I
thank you, Dr.
responded to Stephen.
You did. Great. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So they're there. I posted them again, Stephen, in the chat.
Oh, good stuff. Okay, awesome. And then Davina said I had questions and they got answered. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, so if we have no other questions, um, what would you say as the closing remarks for somebody who may be just like brand new to this natural way, this more natural way? Maybe they've been plugged into the mainstream their whole lives or for generations. Maybe they feel overwhelmed. Like, what could be one thing that they could do that could help them on this road to healing?
Well, first I would say take a deep breath, because it's never, ever, ever too late to start doing something. And what I often encourage folks to do is just one thing in each day as you get started, just one thing that helps you end the day healthier, in a more healthful state than when you began it. Maybe that's drinking an extra glass of water. Maybe it is getting an extra hour of sleep. Maybe it's sitting out in the sun for 30 minutes. Maybe it's when you go to the grocery store, reading the label of something, one thing, and buying a healthier version of it than the last time you bought it. It took me 4 years of medical school to wrap my head around the things that I needed to change, and another 20 to make all the changes that I knew I wanted to make in food, in the cookware that I use, in getting rid of plastic. And 4 years ago, I went on the journey of growing my own food and sourcing things that I knew were absolutely chemical free. I mean, it's a journey and you have to be easy on yourself. And that's kind of the guideline I give folks. Just end the day having done one thing that made you healthier than you started the day, and you'll gain momentum over time.
So if you're listening to this and you feel like you're not doing enough, please know that you just spent time today or tonight, whenever you're watching this, to invest in your own education and the education for the health and wellness of yourself and your family. And that alone is huge. Now you can take steps and go forward with this. This has been incredible information. Thank you so much for being on with us tonight, Dr. Camp. And I look forward to sharing the replay and connecting everyone with all the information you shared with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. It was truly an honor.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.